That's the recording started now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Marr Area Committee meeting, which I'm afraid is rather a long one. I hope everybody's had a great break. For anybody listening in, please note that this is a fully virtual meeting with members and officers attending fully virtually. The public section of the meeting is being live streamed and will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Can members activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video? Members are encouraged to use video for the whole meeting if your connection allows, and particularly when speaking on any item. Can all attendees please mute your microphones when not speaking? If anyone wishes to speak at any point, please use the hands up function in the Teams meeting. Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. If members lose connection or have any technical issues during the meeting, please alert the committee officer if at all possible. And I will, of course, be calling lots of comfort breaks, but if anybody needs one particularly, just send me a message and we'll factor one in at the next convenient moment. So, Kirsty, please could you call Sudrand?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Councillor Blackett.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Brown.
Good morning, I'm here.
Councillor Chowturvey.
Good morning, I'm here.
And there are apologies from Councillor Darnell. Councillor Goodall.
Good morning, present.
Councillor Cloppert.
Here.
Councillor Knight. And Councillor Knight is not currently on the call, so we'll assume apologies if she doesn't join.
Apologies in for her, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Petrie.
Here.
Councillor Ross.
I'm here.
And Councillor Withy.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, now we move on to item 1, which is the declaration of members' interests, and if councillors could use the hands up function, please, to indicate that you wish to intimate an interest. And when I call you in, if you could confirm the item number, nature of the declaration, and whether you will leave or stay in the meeting. And I see Councillor Turvey has her hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I have a connection to item 14 by virtue of knowing one of the honorary member of the committee of Bankery, although inactive through my children's school, but having applied objective test, I have concluded I have no interest to declare, and I will stay on the item.
Thank you. And I think I saw Councillor Petrie's hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. 2 interests to declare today. First of all, on item 12, which is the conservation area boundary review. I own a property within the current conservation area, and it would actually be in the area which under the officer's proposal would come out, and therefore I think it is best that I declare an interest in that and take no part because my property would be impacted by any decision made there. And item 16, the Act 2 application, declare an interest there. I know the applicant and therefore will remove myself and take no part in that decision as well.
Thank you. And I have a connection to item 8 by virtue of being a board member of the National Park and having been part of deciding the policies contained in the local development plan. And the reason that I'm declaring this is that I've sought advice from the National Park on the policies relevant to this application for clarity purposes only. However, having applied the objective test, I've concluded that I have no interest to declare and will stay in the meeting. So now we move on to item 2A, which is the public sector equality duty. And I would ask everybody whether we can agree, please, to give due regard to our duties under the Equality Act. And sorry, I see Councillor Ross's hand up.
Thank you. This is a question for legal regarding declarations of interest. As you've given a declaration of interest regarding item 8, as you're a member of the Cairngorms National Park Board. I appreciate you've sought advice from them. I have not, but I would like to clarify whether being a member of the, I'm going to say, and I'll say it in full, Cairngorms National Park Board, whether I need to declare an interest here or not, or a transparency statement. I'd be grateful if legal could advise, please.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Just understand that Councillor Blackett has declared, sort of made the transparency statement that she sought advice. It'd be up to yourself as to whether you would make a transparency statement if you're a member of the Cairngorms National Park. I'm not sure if you usually make transparency statements. No. I think in that case, no, you wouldn't require to. It would just be, in this case, was slightly different.
I only did because I sought clarification on the policies.
Thank you. I was just wanted clarification because I appreciate that Councillor Blackett has sought clarification from regarding that. I have not, but I just wanted to ensure that I was doing the right thing. So by not making a transparency statement or declaring an interest. So thank you for your advice. I will take it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll now move back to item 2A and to ask whether we agree to give due regard to our duties under the Equality Act, and I will take silence as agreement. And I see nobody saying other. And then we move to exempt information and whether we agree to take items 15, 16 and 17 in private. And again, I will take silence as agreement. Fine. And now we move to item 3, which is the minute of the meeting of Marr Area Committee of the 16th of June. Do we agree to approve the minute as a correct record? I see nobody saying no. And now we move on to item 4, which is the statement of outstanding business, and I'll hand over to Tim.
Thank you, Chair. With regard, there are 3 items of outstanding business. In terms of item 1, which has been a long-running item, I can confirm that that is now in place. The order, I believe, the formal order was instigated yesterday. For local members, they'll see that there is still matting over the signs, but it is ready to go. I believe roads officers are currently in the process of, just as a courtesy, letting local residents know that they're about to be unveiled, and we would expect the signs to go live at some point in the very, very near future. So to all intents and purposes, that is now in place and ready to go. I think the only thing that's not holding that up is roads officers simply wanting to do due diligence in terms of giving residents the last final bit of information that that's about to go live. So I'm hoping, after a very long time on the outstanding business, that this committee can sign that off. Moving on to item 2, it's intended to bring a report to all area committees with regards to Act 2 in September, October, to look at removing the distinction between capital and revenue balances and give members the opportunity to review current maximum minimum award thresholds. So it may well be that if we were to put a time limit of October, just to be sure, that would give us something to ensure that happens in an appropriate amount of time. Lastly, with regards to item 3, the requested information is provided in Appendix 1, which is just below the statement of outstanding business. So hopefully, again, I'm hoping the committee can agree to sign off that particular action. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Councillor Ross.
Thank you. I was wondering if something could be re-added to the outstanding business. We received an email from Kirsty regarding the update on winter all-season tyres for the school transport petition. I was not involved in this apart from being a member of the committee, but I would be grateful if it could be added back to the matters of outstanding business so that we can keep an eye on it, because I think it's really important that this is followed through. I appreciate there's been a delay, but I think if it's on here, it keeps it within sight to ensure that it's not delayed any further than October. So can we please keep it there, please? Or add it to this, please. Thank you.
If anybody disagrees with that, speak now. I would rather agree with Councillor Ross. So, sorry, Tim, I think you've got to add that back.
No problem, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Petrie.
Thanks. Yeah, I was delighted to see signs going up last week for the one-way system. It has been a very, very long time coming. I have some reluctance in taking it off until it's actually live, but I am reassured, Tim will be glad to know that the roads orders are in place and therefore it will be happening, and hopefully they get uncovered tomorrow in time for the school starting and everyone's happy. So I think, yeah, content to take that off and really hope that it does go live and we don't have to re-add it in 4 weeks' time, but I'm sure we won't, and it's there and in place. In regards, I do have a question about something else actually. I think it's in the appendix on item 4 on page 14. In discussion around the number of nurseries and childminders, it says Huntly has 2 private nurseries and 3 childminders. Huntly, it did have 2 private nurseries. However, it no longer does. One got closed a number of years ago because care commission issues, not on the nursery's behalf in terms of the building. And so I'm a little bit concerned. I don't think Huntly has 3 childminders either. And so I'm just a little bit concerned as to the accuracy of that. And it would be useful maybe to get a further update on that to make sure everything in there is accurate. Because if we are basing decisions around ELC on old figures, then that puts us into a difficult position as a council.
Tim, do you want to respond to that, or are you happy?
As I said, I couldn't verify the accuracy of the figures myself, but I think it would be entirely reasonable if there are concerns about some of the figures provided that we leave that on with a view to ourselves going back to ECS just to clarify those points and raise those concerns.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Goodall.
Oh, thank you, Chair. My comments were the same as Councillor Petrie in regard to the figures just discussed. What I would like to see is thank you to the officers for finally completing this project, but also thanks to Councillor Petrie for she was the driving force behind it, and I think we should make the public aware of that. Thank you.
That's on the public record now. Thank you very much. I see no other hands up. So now we can move on to Neil, who's got a mountain of stuff to give us, and will give us a very brief update on the Cairngorm fire at the end. Neil, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everybody. So yeah, 2 reports to cover. So Q4 from 25-26. And then Q1 26 and 27. So the way I'm going to do it, the same as the last time, I will run through Q4 and take any questions off the back of that. I'll keep it as brief as possible, and I've just highlighted the significant areas worth discussing. After Q4, yeah, I'll take a few questions and then move on to Q1, and then as Chair has mentioned, go on to just a brief overview of Cairngorms. So Q4 2025-26, just going through the statistics, is significant reduction in accidental dwelling fires, and also a reduction in the deliberate fires within the area. There was a slight increase in RTCs, with 13 people being rescued by the SFRS, and if you go back to the January-February time, that links to the flooding and the inclement weather that we experienced. There was a significant increase to non-fire casualties, and that was due to an increase in assisting other services and that subsequent increase in RTCs within the area. I'm just going to go that kind of covers the trends. I'm just going to go start off 2 seconds. Moving on from the trends just into the accidental dwelling fires specific to the incidents and wards. So as I mentioned, with the reduction in accidental dwelling fires. There was 2 in Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 in Huntly, Strathbogie and Howe of Afford. 2 were non-applicable, which would mean that there was no significant damage, and 1 was limited to the room that the fire was ignited in. Moving on to accidental dwelling fire casualties, there was only 1. That was an individual overcome by fumes from a fire, and that was in a boy in Upper Deeside and Donside. Non-fire casualties, these have been specific to either joint working, so assisting other services with the ambulance service or through RTCs. There was 7 casualties within Huntly, Strathbogie, Howe of Afford, 5 within a boy in Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 within Bankery and Mid Deeside. There's a breakdown in nature of injury. Majority of these have been limited to RTCs, and anything that is specific chest pain, heart conditions, cardiac arrest, hypothermia, etc., were assisting other services. Deliberate fires there was a drop in deliberate fires. There was 1 involving a road vehicle. Unfortunately, due to the conditions surrounding the incident, I'm not at liberty to discuss, but that was within Bankery and Mid Deeside. Non-domestic fires, there was a steady result on non-domestic fires. Incidents by wards, we had 2 within a boy in Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 within Huntly, Strathbogie and Howe of Afford. UFAS incidents, again, so a slight decrease within unwanted fire alarm activations. Incidents 4 within Bankery and Mid Deeside, 5 within boy in Upper Deeside and Donside, and 2 within Huntly, Strathbogie and Howe of Afford. Road traffic collisions, there was a slight increase, as I previously mentioned. These were all involving cars, and I could put them all down to the inclement weather. That takes into consideration covers the RTCs or vehicles involved in flooding, and also vehicles involved in collisions. There was 3 within Huntly, Strathbogie, Howe of Afford, 2 within a boy in Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 within Bankery and Mid Deeside. Fortunately, there was 1 fatality, and again that relates to the incident I'm not at liberty to discuss. There was 4 non-fatal casualties, and there was 2 people rescued by firefighters. Moving on to community safety education, we've got home fire safety visits. 25 home fire safety visits were carried out within the area, 12 within Aboyne, 8 within Huntly, and 5 within Bankery. Bear in mind, these are all high-risk visits, so it's a significant number of high-risk visits, not including the medium to low risks that are already captured, but not reported within the systems we have just now on our home fire safety app. Fire safety enforcement, audits continue to be carried out throughout the area. Nothing significant to discuss, and that's a continuation from the last quarter. And I'll give a brief overview of community safety engagement for both quarters once I've completed quarter 1. So that concludes Q4. If there is any questions just now, I'm quite happy to take them.
I'd be very surprised if there wasn't. But I can't see any hands. So let's move on.
Oh.
No, Councillor Goodall.
I couldn't allow a question not to be asked. Still, no, just it's not really a question. It's a comment on the reports. But I feel comparing these reports to what we've done before and what the fire service has brought before us, we can see the random nature of much of this. It's not. The trends don't seem to indicate that there is an issue in any particular area of our of Marr. It's just that everything seems to be relatively random, and although that's not a great thing to be able to say, it's also a good thing to say, because I don't think, I mean, is there a reason to, and this is a question to Niall, I suppose, is there a reason to say that there's something that we are not doing as a council that could reduce these accidents and fires, etc.?
Thank you very much, Councillor. It's a very good question, and it's probably a question I've had throughout my whole career. Have you been busy? And the answer is, well, you just never know. The things that will be highlighted here would be the rescue of persons by firefighters, the increase obviously through the flooding, and assisting other services. Other things, we're moving into the next quarter, into Q1, you'll notice that there's an increase in deliberate fires, but again, that is due to not deliberate as such, but again, the random nature of that comes down to the time of year. Yes, we can predict that there will be an increase, and as I keep on saying, it isn't a cause for concern. We look at the trends. What would be of concern is deliberate fires and involving vehicles or buildings that result in significant damage. We can predict those increases across the board with our kind of thematic action plan moving forward into kind of summertime. You're looking at water rescue and stuff, and then winter again, it's those road accidents. Can we reduce them? Yes, we can to a certain extent, but there's nothing stopping it. At times, I would say it's completely out of our control with regards to RTCs, fires, etc. Wildfires specifically, we can do a lot with that, but accidental fires, there's not really much we can do. So a bit of a wishy-washy answer, but again, it's one of those ones, you can never tell what the next month is going to throw up, unfortunately.
Councillor Turvey.
Yes, thank you so much. I have one thing that was pointed to me by people is like, with all the risk of wildfires, we talk about disposable barbecues, we talk about what to do and what not to do, and someone was pointed to me that actually something that we really should warn people of, and maybe campaign on it from the fire service point of view, is like people throwing the cigarette butts, while driving or while walking and things like that, and that's a massive risk of wildfire. Even like randomly, there are people put the butts in the bin, but I can remember how many times I just have to chuck a bottle of water when I saw someone who didn't extinguish the butts properly before even putting in the bin, and actually, it has a fire started in the bin. So I think that's something, and even worse when you actually don't even bother with that and you just throw it from your car windows or, while walking and things like that. I think that's something maybe you should do on the campaign wise to warn people and, remind people that's really something very, very dangerous to do.
I'd like to come in there because I agree with what you're saying, but the national park has made the fire warnings really, really clear, and we got the bylaw, and yet at the weekend I was sent a photograph of a car up a remote path, excuse me, having had a barbecue. So people are ignoring it. I mean, it's shocking. I don't know if you've got anything to say on that, Neil.
I just think that there's no control on human actions at times, and that action, as you've described, when somebody throws a cigarette butt out a window, it can be the start of something like the Cairngorms, or it could put itself out. There really is no control over that. I would like to say definitely with the everything that has come out from the bylaw, from the Cairngorms, I don't think anybody within the vicinity has not been aware of the warnings and the signage that's been up has been fantastic. And no doubt, having been up to Linnadee and it's all over the place. So it's almost to the point that there is no excuse for an individual to carry out that action. But it's very difficult to control if one individual decides to do something like that, unfortunately. So
I don't see any other hands up on there, so thank you very much. I've looked at the establishment figures and I hope they are going to remain stable. Do you want to move on to Q1 now? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So yeah, moving on to Q1 26-27. An overview of the trends from the summary. So there's a slight increase in accidental fires within the Marr district, and a significant increase in deliberate fires. I'll go on to speak about that, having reviewed the data. There's an increase in UFAS incidents as well that you'll be aware. I think it's 3 to up to 18. That has been specific to 2 properties within Marr district that have had issues with their fire alarm systems. Moving on to 2 seconds. Accidental dwelling fires. So an increase within the area. There was 4 within Huntly, Strathbogie, Howe, Afford, 3 within Aboyne, Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 within Bankery and Mid Deeside. Looking at the stats there, 5 of these, the majority, were limited to the first item ignited, and that is cooking left unattended, or it can be as simple as burnt toast. We've discussed this one before. So there's been no significant damage to any properties. 2 of them were not applicable. That would just be an activation of a smoke alarm, and 1 was involving not a whole building, but a room within a building. So albeit there is an increase in accidental dwelling fires, there's no cause for concern, and they were all addressed with the UFAS, post domestic incident response, and information given from crews at the time. Accidental dwelling fires remain steady on. Very good at 1, so there was only 1 within Huntly, Strathbogie, Howe and Afford. Non-fire casualties, so relating to RTCs and assisting other services. So a decrease in that, so 3 within Bankery, Mid Deeside, 1 within Aboyne, Upper Deeside and Donside, and 1 within Huntly, Strathbogie and Howe Afford. Deliberate fires, so previously mentioned, so a significant increase in deliberate fires moving into Q1 of this year. You'll notice that the majority are linked to grassland, woodland and crops, which is of concern. 2 were outdoor machinery, 2 were refuse, and 1 was a deliberate involving a dwelling. Having reviewed the information, these were, and if you actually go to the times of the day, they're all from 2 o'clock in the afternoon till the evening time. They were all either controlled burning, reported as being out of control, resulting in SFRS attendance. On arrival, it was determined that these were burns either controlled or previously extinguished. The time of day suggests, and going by experience, somebody who's been burning something through the day has extinguished it and left at usually afternoon, evening time. Somebody's come across it and then noticed that it may still be smouldering. We have, again, obviously provided advice to those individuals if there's been a responsible person, or at times, in the majority of times, we'd have extinguished the fires. Again, so the refuse we're down to 2 in the outdoor machinery and equipment. That was involving tractors and I think a baler at one point. So looking at the results from that and leading into the bylaw, it was advice given at that period of time. And again, a cause for concern and certainly a point to provide education to individuals. Non-domestic fires. So again, a slight reduction in that. One within Aboyne Upper Deeside and Donside, and one within Bankery and Mid Deeside, all to be accidental. UFAS incidents, again, having just mentioned that, the increase has been limited to 2 properties with significant issues with their fire alarm systems, causing turnouts for SFRS and attendance. 13 within Aboyne Upper Deeside and Donside, 4 within Huntly, Strathbogie and Howe of Afford, and 1 within Bankery and Mid Deeside. RTCs, there's been a slight reduction in RTCs, again due to slightly better weather and better road conditions moving into Q1. And there was 26 home fire safety visits, all of high risk, carried out, 15 within Huntly, 8 within Aboyne, and 3 within Bankery and Mid Deeside. The community safety engagement, this covers both quarters. So there's been significant work carried out and joint agency working across the stations and the estates, and also the Cairngorm Rangers with information, joint information sessions being held at Ballater. We've also supported the Youth Ranger programme at Afford within the academy setting there. For the thematic action plans for the service, moving from spring into summer, we've been focusing on water safety, which has been a significant concern across the country, and again previous to the schools going off, attending whether it be primary schools or secondary schools, giving advice on water safety. Also using that opportunity to provide information on wildfires, and having the wildfire resource, the wildfire support unit at Afford and the wildfire unit at Ballater. They've been very proactive in going and attending community engagements and providing that visual for members of the community, and really reinforcing the bylaw for the Cairngorms and the wildfires. On top of that, there's been significant work with across the working estates, with a number of training activities being carried out specific to wildfires and the actions that the SFRS can take in line with the resources that we have, working alongside the likes of Bright Sparks and Glenkindie Estate at points for the training of the wildfire support unit at Afford. And that concludes Q1 of this year. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Neil. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Good morning. Thanks for all the reports and the information. I was just interested, you're talking about the water safety, obviously, it's really important, but I was just thinking about the sort of range of people that we're now seeing using the rivers, not just young people, people on sort of inflatables and rafts and stuff like that, people cold water swimming, so there's different risks around cold water shock and stuff, but obviously the change of the river, the depths, where people used to jump in at different times, now the flow has changed and the river is significantly low at this time, so obviously that's probably quite an evolving piece of work around that water safety education. I'm sure the risks and the work that you're doing is probably changing as well, so it's really interesting to hear, and I wondered where that might sort of expand to, because it's not just young people, it's all sorts of people using the river in different ways, and it is very much changing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we looked at that just before the summer. We do have an individual within the community action team. He's based up in Fraserburgh, but he develops all the information packs for the schools and all that engagement side of things. But looking at specific to Ballater, for example, you've got the river there, you've got many tourists coming up using the campsite and using the river as well. We have had engagement from Ballater fire station going across of an evening and just walking around the campsite, providing a bit of advice on the water safety. It is, again, depending where those hotspots are, not really seeing too much in the way of an increase in incidents that the SFRS have attended. We've got our water safety or water rescue capability at Central Fire Station Aberdeen, and it tends to be more the kind of coastal areas and around the seas. Maybe due to the water levels, you're probably quite right with that of the rivers. But the likes of those hotspots where individuals are jumping off bridges or rocks and the river is quite low, that would probably fall more under the stats from Scottish Ambulance Service if they're attending, and also the likes of Mountain Rescue, depending on where those locations are. But personally speaking, for the SFRS, we haven't seen a huge increase in inland specifically, and to do with rivers. However, we are very proactive in trying to address those and be better at addressing those, especially looking at what's happened around the country and Central Belt, more so with the amount of unfortunate fatalities that have been linked to the water.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think that's it. It's good to hear that. It's reassuring to hear that inland the incidents are not increasing. I think, and obviously there's a lot of work going on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, the river's in pretty dire straits at the moment, fish-wise. So, it's a bit sad. I don't see any other hands up on that. My only comment is, and it's probably because it's such a prompt report to the end of the quarter, is that we don't have the establishment figures for this quarter in this report. So I don't know if you could possibly get them to us.
Yeah, sorry, the establishment figures have remained the same from the previous quarter. So the next quarter there may be a slight change. Just thinking off the top of my head, there is a couple that are new recruits that have come through, which is a good sign. But I'll update that with Q2. That's
brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, I don't see any other hands up, so you got away quite lightly with all that today. So a brief update on the fire would be great. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, it will be very brief. Conversation with yourself yesterday, Chair. So I can't comment on the incident itself until the incident is completely concluded. That will hopefully follow in the Q2 report. We'll go through our operational assurance procedures and the full debrief will take place. It will be a significant period of time due to the size and scale of the incident and the impact that it's had on the service as a whole. What I will discuss or put to the board is the significant impact and the future of the support from employers that is definitely coming to the table. There's been a significant pressure on every station within the Marr district and across the whole of Scotland, not even just the north. We've had appliances up from the Central Belt on numerous occasions. The impact that has now is the reluctance for employers to let their employees go, and the questions that will be coming from them if they haven't already been put to the likes of myself or the group commander or even the area commander. I had a conversation with our new area commander, Kabamba. He has addressed that with the Deputy Assistant Chief Officer for the area, and it would be, I think the engagement will with employers will have to come from a higher level. We do have that ability to, we've got the Employers Recognition Programme. However, that is usually assigned to employers that have continually provided support to the SFRS by releasing their employees, or have been businesses that have supported a lot of on-call firefighters being employed and being let go. However, these employers obviously had a huge impact, and then the knock-on impact is the work that's actually been carried out in the area, especially with tourism being very high in the industry for Marr. That's had a major impact, with individuals being away for extended periods of time. The way that we'll obviously have to address that, again, individuals work, so on-call firefighters work on a contract basis, that have a minimum amount of hours that they're available for. That will be reviewed. They were all have done a fantastic job, and I can't praise them enough. They've gone over and above what their contractual obligations state on a piece of paper. However, that needs to be looked at in terms of their rest periods, and how they've managed their attendance. Again, that will come out of the back of the incident debrief, and the overall the debrief for Cairngorms as a whole. I'm not, I'd say, not in a position to be giving any information on the management of the incident and how resources were applied. What I will say is, for the area, we are split into cluster groups. So when the incident support room was stood up down in Dundee, they look at those clusters within the areas and they manage that as best as possible, so we don't end up with a situation like we had last year with Dava, Ballater leaving the area and the person's reported coming in significant fire, that had a huge impact because the next initial available resource wasn't coming from, was coming from Stonehaven. So again, we have, I think that's been managed a lot better this time. However, further information will come off the back of the debrief, as I've said. So quite happy to take any questions. I know there'll be plenty.
Thank you, Neil. Anne, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, and I appreciate we can't talk about the incidents that have happened recently. However, I'm going to speak I will speak generically, but first I would like to thank all the firefighters, gamekeepers, land managers, volunteers, and everybody that has been involved in fighting these forest fires and been involved in these incidents. And that's all I'm going to say about these incidents. I'm going to be speaking generically now, and I wondered, and I read an article, or sort of on the news actually, that there were queries regarding whether whether firefighters had the correct equipment to fight forest fires, or whether their equipment, their clothing in particular, was too heavy. So that's my first question. Second is, and this is speaking generically, not about this incident, when we look at fire breaks and fuel loads regarding the land, and I'm speaking generically, I'm going to put it as the UK as a whole, so we're not talking about particular incidents. Will the fire service be feeding back to the, I'm going to say, governments, because there's governments involved in this, regarding fuel loads and fire breaks and their policies? Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. First one, the personal protective equipment, so specifically wildfire PPE. We so all wildfire stations and trained level 2 and 3 wildfire personnel all have specific garments that differ from our regular fire gear. We are currently going through a process of procurement. They've just finished the trials on PPE for SFRS. How that will look, I am not sure. We are looking at fire gear specific to structural firefighting, and also rescue garments in line with wildfire and RTCs, etc. Again, it's a similar situation with RTCs where you're turning up in full firefighting gear on a day like this where it's maybe not temperatures aren't huge, but when you're working quite hard, it's quite arduous. So that is under review, and I can confirm that will be the procurement process will follow off the back of that, and I will confirm as to how that looks. With regards to those resources attending wildfires using structural firefighting gear, we do have a process of dynamically risk assessing where we can reduce PPE at times. As a general statement, it can be quite arduous in structural firefighting gear, but there is ways and means of reducing that stress and strain on individuals. So that's where that PPE stands just now. Unfortunately, I can't give you definitive dates as the procurement process is still to be concluded, but that's how that'll look moving into 26-27. Fire breaks and fuel loads, yes, is a cause for concern. I am not in a position to detail the involvement that SFRS will have in terms of the land management and the legal aspect of it. However, the advice will be given in reviews of fire safety risk assessments will obviously take place, looking off the back of DAVA. Again, the recommendations that were made off of the debrief, it will be the same with any other wildfire that happens, and specifically, I will say Cairngorms there'll be a number of improvements off the back of that. Whether that means better management of fire breaks, fuel loads, depending on if the estate is a rewelding estate, or a state that carries out mure burns. I can't say how that will look, but I think the SFRS will have a bit more involvement in familiarisation specifically for those estates, which will highlight the access and egress and potentially the causes of concern within specific areas. However, there is nothing at this moment in time that will point in that direction until the debrief has culminated. There is obviously work in the background with our wildfire TACADs and our wildfire working groups, but again, I'm not in that position to provide any information on that, unfortunately.
Could I come back? Thank you very much for that explanation. It was very helpful on all the points. Generically, again, not on specific incidents, does SFRS supply, I'm going to call it fire safety PPE, to volunteers who fight, who join the fight? And I'm thinking in particular farmers, land managers, and gamekeepers, etc. The list goes on. Does SFRS provide those volunteers with safety equipment? And secondly, will SFRS be having conversations with the Scottish Government regarding the issue of mure burn licenses and the principle of mure burn now? Thank you.
the first question with PPE, no, we do not provide PPE for estate workers. They will provide their own PPE. What we will do manage is the positions of those individuals and the management of the incident. So there will be a point where we can provide FFP3 dust masks, but that's the extent of the PPE. Sorry, the extent the PPE will go from SFRS. We will try our best to manage the estate workers on the incident ground, and through our dynamic risk assessment, we'll give estate workers a brief to protect them as best as possible. So in regards to PPE, no, we don't provide that. With Muirburn, I can't honestly tell you where the engagement will be with SFRS and the government. That sits with legal, and whether or not the SFRS engage on the use of Muirburn to that extent, unless it was out of control and there was significant damage to an area off the back of a Muirburn. It's something that sits with the government. Not in a position to kind of comment on that one, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, are you raising similar points to Anne?
Similar. I would just like to thank the fire service for the work they did, and I hope that we learn lessons, not Aberdeenshire lessons, but lessons that we can put forward, lessons that you have learned. And I hope that Edinburgh takes on board those lessons, because I don't know how well equipped you are, and we can't discuss that here, but we need you to be equipped to deal with these fires. We also need you to be equipped to deal with flooding. Climate's changing and we have to react to that. And I hope there are some friendly MSPs about, there might even be one on this call, who will take these messages on board and try and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodall. I'll just come in on the back of that, because I wouldn't dream of telling people how they should manage their land, although there are plenty that do. What I think should be absolutely set in stone is that you protect your neighbour. So if you have a high fuel load, you should make sure that your land has fire breaks round it, and there should be a map like the estates have of all the access roads. All the sporting estates will have access roads marked, so that when the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service are called to this, they can see immediately how to get somewhere. So that's my comment on that. Then there's one incident that I don't think you mentioned, Neil, in your report, because it didn't happen in our area, but it was dealt with by, I think, either Braemar or Ballater. And I don't know if you know about this, but they went over the Lecht, and on the way down to the well of Lecht, the fire crew found a fire, and they managed to put that out before it got out of control, because we could have been in a really bad way with them everywhere. So I too would like to pass on my thanks. I think most of the guys on the ground know that I'm very grateful, but I think we're all really grateful for all the hard work that they've put in over this summer, and they've gone above and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you next time.
Will do. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Is everybody happy to keep going for a bit? I don't see anybody saying. That's great. So I don't see anybody saying no. So we now move on to item 7, which is full planning permission for erection of 3 wind turbines in the site east of Chapelton Farm, Drumblade. The application is recommended for approval, and we have a request to speak from Ewan Ely wind to the applicant. Are the committee content to hear from the applicant? And I don't see it. I don't see anybody saying no. So Kirsty, can you please bring him in?
That should be Ewan added to the call now.
Good morning, Ewan. Can you hear me?
I can. Good morning.
That's great. My name's Councillor Blackett and I'm the chair. Oh, sorry. Actually, I'm handing over to Councillor Goodall. He's going to take the planning. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Goodall.
Very well. Where were we? Right. We're hearing from the speaker. Is the speaker in the meeting? Can we confirm the speakers
yes,
in the meeting?
Yes, sorry, if you're referring to me, I'm here.
Thank you. Right, Neil, planning officer, can we hear from you? Can you put forward the plan as such?
It's Graham that's presenting this one, Chair.
I do apologise, Graham.
No worries, thank you, Chair. Graham Hannaford, Aberdeenshire Council Planning. Give me one moment and I will share my screen with our presentation. Off the top, there are actually just a couple of corrections real quickly. Our recommendation is for the authority to grant permission be delegated to be delegated subject to the finalization of a Section 75 agreement and subject to the conditions which were listed in the report. In the report, there are mentions of the Glens of Foundland wind farm. That was an error on my part. I was adding an end. It is the Glens of Foundland. So please make note of that. Also, there was a mention of the site being 715 meters from the Glens of Foundland wind farm. There are portions of the site which are that distance from the adjacent wind farm. However, the site does actually border with the easternmost stretch of those of the existing wind farm. So with that out of the way, this is application 2025-0514, which is requesting full planning permission for the erection of 3 wind turbines, hub height of 83 meters and a total height of 149.9 meters. Also the erection of a substation control room, formation of new access track, improvements to existing access track, and other associated infrastructure. The site itself is located approximately 5 kilometers southeast of the settlement boundaries of Huntley. It has a total size. Well, we can do this here. We have visuals of the site. On these next slides, the visuals on top are the existing, taken from a distance. This is from the northwest. The top is the existing. The bottom is a simulation of what it would look like with the new turbines. You can see one actually here in the foreground. That's a view from the northwest. This is the approach from the southeast. You can see the existing and then the proposed. This is from the north of the site. See 1, 2, and 3. This is from the direct north of the site. See them this one here poking out. This is from the northeast of the site, where views are mostly hidden by the hills and the undulating nature of the area. Here we have the view from the east. Again, the development is shielded from views by the existing hills. Here we go. Here's the location plan. So you can see it's about 1.5 kilometers north of the A96. Total size of the site is 152 hectares. However, that incorporates quite a bit of area, which is not going to be developed. The main development is in this section right here, the southeast side. About 3.77 hectares total of development is proposed. Here we have a site plan showing the location of the turbines. These two on the easternmost are in grassland, grazeland, if you would. There is one here on the southwest, which is in the commercial plantation, which occupies a good chunk of the existing site. Here we have a close-up of turbine 1. The area in orange is where the hard standing would be, both for access and for servicing the erection of the turbine as well. Purple here is the substation compound and a small control building just to the south of that. This access track does currently exist for the most part. I believe this little stretch right here would be added onto the existing access. Here's what's labeled as turbine 2. This would be up the hill a little bit into the woodlands to be cleared out. And here's 3, again, within the existing grassland, grazeland of the site. Moving along, this is an elevational image of the turbine. Again, 86 meters to the, 83 meters to the hub, total height of 149 meters. Important to note that due to the change in elevation, the 2 that are on the grassland areas would be roughly 15 meters lower than the peak of the existing wind farm to the east, while the one that's in the woodland is a little bit at an elevated site. It would be roughly level with the majority of the 20 turbines on the site to the east. This is an image of the substation control room. Again, fairly innocuous in the grand scheme of things. I think the reason we're here is the turbines, not the control building. This is an image of a map of the woodland removal, which would be associated with this development. This is both for the development of the turbine in the southwest corner of the site, but also to create a perimeter for bat protection. Removing the trees would reduce turbine strike for bats themselves. Again, this is a commercial plantation, so it would be likely that this woodland would be removed at some point in the near future. Anyways, thankfully, there is a replanting scheme because the removal of woodland, not all of it could be replaced on site. And this is a localized woodland replanting scheme. This isn't going to go off to some other far corner of Scotland. It will be nearby the site. It's a general area right now. Obviously, land would have to be purchased or agreed with to plant it. Condition of approval is that those details will be provided and secured before any development on site takes place. Here's a map of the general habitat on site, again showing that it's grassland in the southern area where you have turbine 1 and 3, and plantation conifers here in the majority of the site. There are a few local nature conservation sites in the near vicinity. However, you can see that the turbines here are marked in orange, well outside of the actual the buffer zones of those local nature conservation sites. This is also important as part of the EIA. There's another map in here, I'll show you that, but as part of the EIA, we have to demonstrate that it has a potential to connect to the power grid without creating an impact, which has been demonstrated, as there are, you can see here, paths which allow for the undergrounding of the cable without causing any serious environmental harm. Here we have the shadow flicker map. On this map, you will see that receptor 8 here is in the yellow area, so it would receive higher than standard shadow flicker, typically speaking. The reason that this is being recommended for a delegated grant, the Section 75 itself, the agreement is so that this house here, number 8, will remain unoccupied for the length of the permission. This is due not just for shadow flicker, but also for noise impact. The applicant has decided that they do not wish to demolish this house. However, with the Section 75 agreement, it will be secured that this will remain unoccupied in order to make sure that there's no individual receptor that is negatively substantially impacted by either noise or shadow flicker. You can see here the other homes in the area, number 9, 13, and 7 are the only ones that would be affected potentially by shadow flicker. There is a condition recommended for mitigation on that contained within the report, which you've all had access to and hopefully read. Here we have the noise assessment as well. So you can see here the sites that could potentially be impacted. We also have on here marked the 20 turbines to the east. Again, this one here, number 1, which is Brayhead, is the one that would be impacted at a serious level, recommended, or not recommended, but subject to a legal agreement to remain unoccupied for the duration of the 35-year permission. The site would be taking access, be utilizing access from the north. It's an existing access proposed to be improved in order to provide a better visibility display and also for the delivery of certain portions of the development. Large-scale HGVs, however, are proposed to take access via new access directly off of the A96. This has been reviewed by Scottish Transport. This would be the delivery of the turbine blades and the larger elements of the development only, and it is conditioned that it will be closed off immediately after the development phase has been completed. Here we have a swept path analysis onto the northern access. This is the theoretical visibility map. So you can see that there is some visibility from an area. They are 149.9 meters. However, most of this will be lessened due to the nature of the area consisting mostly of rolling hills. These are the potential sensitive receptors I would be able to see. You can see there's mostly to the north, although you saw the images earlier of the north demonstrating that it's mostly hidden because of the hills or shielded from the hills. This was recommended to committee due to concerns on cumulative impact. So these are the existing wind farms in the area. Again, hills of Foundland immediately to the east. There's Clash and Derrick here, Craig Watch. You can see that most other wind farm developments are more than 10 kilometers away from this site. This would visually, in the opinion of the Planning Service, look as though it's an addition to the existing Glens of Foundland wind farm development. Here we have the cumulative ZTE. So in the pink, you have the theoretical Clash and Derrick extension. So you can see here, it's already overlapping. Same here. No additional impact on views from the East Mains of Dummy, excuse me there, and Glen Myers, which is to the south of the A96 we have here. Then Kirkton Farm, shown here on the map. And that is the presentation. Other points of concern. Again, the 2 turbines on the flatter elevation with the one on the southwest just a little bit higher would be roughly level with the existing development to the east. As far as environmental impacts, there are badgers on site. However, Natural Environment is satisfied that the mitigations in place pre-construction would mitigate any potential impacts on that. The areas for development are of low ecological value. Again, woodland loss, it's a plantation, so that would be expected anyways. However, there is a restocking plan in place. And the only thing here really to discuss, I guess, out of the ordinary is the Section 75, as mentioned before, which would keep the residents known as Brayhead permanently unoccupied by legal agreement for the 35 years. And we are satisfied that they have met all policy and are recommending the authority to grant permission via delegated powers subject to the finalization of that Section 75 agreement and subject to all conditions contained within the report. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Graham. Does committee have questions for Graham? Don't see any hands. Councillor Cloppert.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you. I just wanted to ask Graham, isn't it?
Yes.
At presently, is the property that's going to stay or going to be empty or kept empty by the landowner? Is that presently empty at all?
I'm not aware of it being occupied. However, the agent could probably speak better to that as to whether or not there's nothing currently preventing it from being occupied. But I don't know 100%. I couldn't.
If I'm allowed to answer that, then yes.
I'm afraid I need to come in. I do apologise for the Vice Chair. If I could just make clear on the Vice Chair's behalf that the speaking, you'll be given 5 minutes shortly, and you may then be asked questions, but questions now are purely for planning officers. So if I could ask you not to come in, I'd be very grateful. Thank you. Sorry, Vice Chair.
So, Anouk, if you could repeat your question after the presentation from the applicant.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Withy.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It is a question regarding the empty property, but it is for the planning officer and perhaps any other officer that can help. And apologies for not putting my camera on. I have a child shouting at me. I just want to check, how does you've said there that one of the conditions is the property will remain empty for 35 years. I just wanted to see, how does that fit in terms of our other council policies? Because we are, of course, put out a consultation at the moment on an increase in council tax on second homes and empty properties on the basis that we're trying to make sure there are fewer empty properties. So I'm just wondering how effectively encouraging a property being empty for 35 years actually fits in with our other policies.
This is not a condition. It would not be a competent condition to keep the property unoccupied. However, it is a legal agreement, which is why we need a Section 75 on this particular case. Again, there's nothing preventing this property at present from being occupied. There's also nothing preventing it from being unoccupied. As far as council tax goes, that's not something that would be taken under consideration on a planning application per se. That is, that there's nothing in the local development plan which would prevent them from keeping this house unoccupied. It does not, that particular portion of the legal agreement, there's nothing that would prevent them from demolishing this property. So if anything, at the end of the life of this, it does preserve a dwelling house, if that's what your concern is.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it was just for that bit of clarity around how it fits, but as you're sort of suggesting, it doesn't really come into the discussion, so I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Withy. Anouk, you have another question.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask about the cumulative impact. Is there a particular concrete kind of number effect, kind of involved in that, or is it just something that is, considered as a what shall I call it, as as a accumulation of where is the measure of what is too much and what's too little?
It is discretionary in regards to cumulative impact. I mean, we have to measure it and then determine whether or not it's felt that it's too much. It's planning services opinion that this would appear as though it is a part of the existing wind farm visually, because of its immediate adjacent location and the general heights. It's not viewed that this would have an additional visual impact over what's existing to any significant level. This is from a planning perspective, from a policy perspective, locating new wind turbines to help support local and national policy as far as clean energy generation. It's about as ideal as it gets, to be perfectly honest, as again, the impact is lessened to a almost insignificant element because of the existing infrastructure that's located immediately to the east of the site.
Thank you, Graham. You happy, Anouk? You're fine, Anouk? Nothing to come back? Yes. Hi. Good, thank you. Right, a couple of wee questions of my own since there's no other hands up. Archaeology. If archaeology is discovered on the site, what then happens? Is the project frozen until it's excavated and examined, or does it continue?
Well, there is a monitoring program that would have to be agreed upon before any development starts, as conditioned. Most likely, development would be paused if any archaeological artifacts are uncovered. I believe most of the archaeological finds would be located further north, but they're going to record what's found. There maybe be a pause while they record what's there. It's not expected that there's any that they would delay development by any significant timescale, though.
Okay, thank you, Graham. One other question regarding water supplies. Given the hydrology of the area, and there are a lot of, I think there's 3 houses that may be affected by this development. If there are mitigations in place, but if something comes along that does affect those water supplies to individuals in the area caused by this development, whether it be water quality or water availability, do we have mitigations in place to cover that?
Impacts on the private water supply would be handled by environmental health, who do monitor the private water supplies in the area. As far as the mitigations go, give me one moment here. It's not seen that this would have much of an impact on the water supplies. It's not taking up a large area, which would prevent soaking in. Once everything's in place, there's construction mitigation during the construction, which would prevent silt from polluting and construction materials from polluting any private water supply. So I'm not sure if you could clarify what you mean by impacts.
I suppose my question is, if something does happen that isn't mitigated for in the first instance, what then happens? If, for instance, someone's water supply is cut off or it's contaminated, is there a system whereby that can be rectified at the cost of this development?
I would have to check. That would most likely be a SEPA operation. This permission would be conditioned to require a construction method statement, again, which would be reviewed by our natural heritage and environmental health teams to make sure that there is the standard of safety which is acceptable, and any foreseen incidences would be there. Outside of the ordinary is, I wouldn't imagine that this particular proposal would have anything spectacular happening to it. It's not, there's not a whole high level of chemicals that would be on site. It's not really projected to have much of an impact. So I'm not entirely certain what impacts you're asking about, but as far as the construction, which would be the majority of the potential impacts, this development's not projected to have an impact, so there's no control really needed through planning. If supplies dry out through global warming or shifts in hydromorphology, or that can happen with or without developments adjacent. So the private supplies, private supplies aren't infinite, and if there is some sort of an impact like that, it does become a civil matter to find a new supply with environmental health monitoring in case of an emergency.
Thank you, Graham. Right, can I now invite you? If there are no other questions, no. Tim, you have a question or a statement?
It wasn't so much a question or a statement, Councillor Goodall. I was just wondering if you would mind, in your capacity as Vice Chair, recognising you've picked this up, would you mind if I just ran through some of the protocols for Mr. Ely as the Speaker going forward, just for the purposes of the minute? Is that acceptable? Mr. Ely, just on behalf of the committee, you'll be asked to do a strict 5 minutes. I think Councillor Goodall will give you a minute warning if you're towards the end of that. So you'll know at that point you would have to stop your presentation. After that point, members will have the opportunity to ask you questions. So you'll then have an opportunity to answer questions over and above the 5 minutes. Once that's finished, the committee will move to discussion, at which point we'll be muting your microphone so you'll be able to watch, but you won't be able to participate further. Is that okay with yourself? Are you clear on all of that?
Fine, noted. Yeah, I've paid attention to the guidance as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. I shall hand you back to Councillor Goodall, who will bring you in. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Tim. So, Ewan, you have 5 minutes. I'll time you. It's now 11:21. So you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the committee and planning officers. My name's Ewan. I'm a senior project manager with Wind2 and I'm representing the applicant. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. The application is for 3 turbines with 2 sited on agricultural land at North Braehead, a 4th generation mixed farming enterprise and a single turbine within the neighbouring block of forestry managed by an independently owned and UK-based firm at Hill of Stonyfield. I've known the Hunters at North Braehead since 2011 when I helped deliver their farm-scale 20 kilowatt wind turbine. Thankfully, this was still operating well when I approached the topic of a larger scale project a decade later, otherwise I may well have been shown the door. This project, when constructed, represents a strong case for income diversification for farmers who are under increasing pressure from continually rising input costs, taxation and climate change in the face of stagnant income. Stonyfield will make a tangible contribution to Scotland's and the UK green energy targets. At 15 megawatts, the project will generate enough power for the equivalent electricity use of over 13,000 homes annually. Onshore wind remains the most cost-effective new form of electricity generation, whilst also delivering local construction jobs and longer-term employment. If consented, it is expected that the turbines could be generating energy here by 2030. Wind2 Limited has held meaningful discussions with local community groups about the potential for a community ownership stake, in which they were positive. Wind2 is committed to delivering a community benefit fund of at least £5,000 per megawatt per annum. This will be over £70,000 a year, equating to more than £2 million over the life of the project, and is therefore a substantial commitment. Throughout the planning process, there have been technical, environmental and legal consultation responses to navigate, especially those noted within the committee report, such as NATS, the Ministry of Defence, Roads Authority and Environmental Health. Throughout, the communication with Aberdeenshire Council has been excellent, so I'd really like to thank Graham for being proactive, diligent and approachable. Thank you, Graham. There have also been valid representation made from members of the public, including the nearest affected residents. These have highlighted visual impact on landscape, including cumulative impact, and potential for impact on private water supplies. Throughout the assessment period of these factors, the applicants have employed independent advice from experienced consultants, and as the report before the committee demonstrates, the officers consider that the project has an appropriate layout, siting and design. The applicant therefore respectfully asks that the committee again agree with the officer's recommendation and approve the application. That's it from me. Please feel free to direct any questions my way. Thank you.
Okay, Ewan, any questions for Anouk?
Yes, good morning, Ewan, as well. Thank you for coming to the committee. I just had a couple of questions. I think most of it has been answered, I think, previously already, but you mentioned the benefit to local community. Will that be followed up? How will that be followed up? And also, I think you mentioned also the long-term employment. Can you give me an indication what kind of employment would be long-term involved with this? Thank you so much.
Sure. On the community benefit funds, the £5,000 per megawatt installed capacity per annum is Scottish Government best practice advice at this time. We would honour that guidance and follow through, either through a structured delivery with development trusts, with community councils, or something a bit more bespoke to the region. In terms of employment, construction benefits I mentioned, these are large infrastructure projects when they're in construction. I'm aware of projects in the region employing local civils contractors, electrical contractors, and then ongoing employment. There are substantial operational employments based in and around Aberdeenshire. Turbine maintenance in the past has been fairly well represented. I'm aware of bases in Banff and Inverurie, in other locations, especially the sort of overlap between offshore work, mechanical and electrical, and taking care of these turbines. I hope that answers your question.
Are you happy with that, Anouk?
Yeah, well, yes, thank you. That's helpful to know. And I forgot, of course, to ask my question about the property being empty. Thank you.
Sorry, was that a question?
Yes, the question is it presently empty? That's what
it's not. It's presently occupied. So North Braehead and Braehead, which is the property just further to the south near the A96, are both in the ownership of the landowners with this application. Yeah, the Hunter Senior currently reside in North Braehead, which would be the property to be vacated. I think adding a bit of context to that, there are amenity levels that we target for noise impact on a project of this scale. Those amenity levels are increased for properties with financial involvement, which this would be the case. Unfortunately, in this instance, the layout that we felt was the best compromise all around for other impacts and other environmental factors meant that those amenity levels were ever so slightly higher than what would normally be allowable by ETSU 97, the noise guidelines that we follow. And in this instance, we felt the benefits of vacating that property fully outweigh the negatives here.
Thank you, Ewan. Are you happy with that, Anouk?
Well, thanks for answering, Ewan. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. One question from myself. It follows on from Anouk's question. Specifically, locally, how many people will be permanently employed by this project?
Do you mean construction or in the long-term operation?
Long-term operation.
So long-term operation, I don't know the reports sort of off by heart here and what was said in the assessments, but speaking from previous experience, there are certainly turbines of this scale require 3 times annual maintenance, and then there's ongoing operational issues as well, call-outs, all the rest. So I would expect it to be at the very least 2 or 3 engineers. And then operationally behind that, there are office-based jobs maintaining and operating these machines as well.
Okay, but nothing locally to the Huntly area, just perhaps Aberdeenshire or Scotland-wide?
It's a difficult commitment to make at this point. I have been employed locally in Aberdeenshire in the past, doing this very kind of work. and I'm aware of operators doing that as well. So it makes sense. Ultimately, it depends on who the OEM, who the supplier of these turbines are, and where they base their staff members and their operational basis.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ewan? Don't see any indication. Thank you, Ewan, for attending. If you want to remain in the meeting, you can do so, but if you do so, please mute your microphone. Thank you. Right. Do members have sufficient information to determine the application? No indications, so I take it we have sufficient information. Do we require a site visit? Are we happy with what have been presented to us? No indication, yes. I take that. Thank you. If members have sufficient information, we will proceed to the discussion and debate. Does anyone have any comments or anything they want to discuss? Councillor Petrie.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It was myself who referred this one to Area Committee because I think, having read the report of handling we get through, I was concerned by the points raised on cumulative impact and the impact on the visual impact. Sorry. I think, having seen the pictures from the planning officer today, I am more reassured on that. I think they will almost blend into the turbines which are already there. And there will undoubtedly be some impact on some neighbours, but I think I am much more reassured than what I was in respect of those 2 points, which is what I had asked for it to come to committee on. And it was really useful to see those pictures and slides and just to be able to put it into that level of context. So I think my position on this is that I would now be content to grant this in line with planners' recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Petrie. Is there a contrary position? Are we happy to proceed with Councillor Petrie's recommendation?
Yes.
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the recommendation is that to grant the authority to grant be delegated to the Head of Planning and Economy, subject to the finalisation of a Section 75 agreement to ensure the dwelling house known as Northbury Head remains unoccupied for the duration of the permission and subject to the conditions set out in the report. We are content. Can officers note the recommendation, please? Thank you, Ewan, for attending. And again, if you want to stay for the rest of our meeting, you may do so. But I take it you have better things to do.
Thank you. I'll leave. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you. Item 8, full planning permission for demolition of dwelling house and erection of dwelling house and workshop storage building. Erection of 2 dwelling houses, these are holiday lets. Installation of an air source heat pumps, solar panels, and erection of a 5 kilowatt wind turbine, 50 metres to hub and 17.5 metres to blade tip, formation of access and associated infrastructure at Drum, Nagarro, Glenbucket, Strathdon. Now, a request to speak has been made by Gregor Maxwell. Are we content to hear this? Tim, you have something to say?
Apologies, Chair. I was just suggesting, I'm conscious that because you have anticipating that members won't have any concerns, I'm conscious that this, again, is likely to be a significant planning item. I was perhaps going to recommend for some members they may appreciate a short comfort break before going into this one. Very much down to yourself to canvass other members, Chair, but I thought this was probably a time just to suggest that.
Thank you for the suggestion. Do we require a comfort break?
Yes,
I see a nodding head. 2 nodding heads. Councillor Ross, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I would agree. From a health and safety perspective, we should. Thank you.
Fine. We'll have a comfort break. How long do we think? 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
10 is fine.
10.
10.
10 minutes from now, so it's 35. We'll be back at 45. So that's 11:45. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you then.